Hello, all. Welcome back to the HOJ-Cast, and we are on now episode 13. And for episode 13, it was time to do the episode dedicated to number 13, Brock Purdy. He did wear the number 14 briefly, I believe, in a few preseason appearances, but ultimately became number 13 for the San Francisco 49ers. And that's what's on the menu for today, the Purdy episode. And this episode will talk about Purdy, the player, and then it will shift into going over my Brock Purdy collection, and then it will conclude with some thoughts about ranking Purdy's cards from my point of view as a collector and figuring out which ones I want to go after, um, and all the benefits that come from ranking cards and sort of being able to figure out the relationship between price and ranking, and if some are overpriced relative to where I rank them, and if some are underpriced relative to where I rank them, and how that might be very helpful information to make collecting a little more fun for me. And then finally, I plan to close with some thoughts on the process of ranking in general, and sort of reflect on what it's able to do, what it isn't able to do. So there's the preview. Let's get into this episode. And here's what I want to start with. What I want to start with is a review of the narrative arc of Purdy's career. And I'm not a huge narrative guy. I do love the sports narrative, and I follow it closely, but I really just like to zoom out and stay at a high level, measurable stuff, especially when I'm like sharing what I like and what I appreciate with others. I like to stick to stuff that we all can sort of see clearly, and sort of shy away from things that are overly subjective, or things that might resonate with me personally, but they really might not resonate with somebody else at all. So I like to find common ground discussing sports, by landing on more so the things that are measurable and demonstrable, and stay away from trying to inundate people with the things that I think are emotionally appealing. But I think Purdy's case is particularly compelling. And so, with a little bit of help from ChatGPT, I've reconstructed a set of bullet points for each of his first three seasons in the NFL that kind of tell his story. And I do think it's a narrative perspective worth sharing in the case of this player. But don't worry, after we do that, we are going to get to the measurables. We are going to get to the metrics as well. So let's start with this. Brock Purdy. We'll start with the beginning of his NFL career, which I suppose technically started when he was drafted last. He was the 262nd draft pick in the 2022 NFL draft, which earned him the dubious, or not the dubious, the infamous honor of being known as Mr. Irrelevant for the 2022 draft. He entered camp competing for a job, just competing for a roster spot, period. And he ultimately earned a spot as a third stringer on the 2022 San Francisco 49ers roster, backing up Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo. And in the preseason, he really put up modest numbers, but some people thought that he was fairly poised. And I think the preseason performance played a role in him holding on to a roster spot. Throughout that season, there would be two major injuries to happen. First to Trey Lance, and then second to Jimmy Garoppolo. And then that meant next man up. Purdy was up. And so his first real game action came in week 13 of the 2022 season, where he came in, he passed for 210 yards, completed 25 passes and 37 attempts with 2 touchdowns, and beat Miami 33-17 in coming in relief for Garoppolo. And then the very next week, he had his first ever career NFL start, going head-to-head with Tom Brady. And in that game, the 49ers routed Brady and the Bucs 35-7. And Purdy had 2 passing touchdowns, a rushing touchdown, 16 of 21 passing completions for 185 yards, and he had 134 passer rating. So quite the start to his career is absolutely eviscerating Tampa Bay and Tom Brady. He would go on that season to have 5 total starts as that season concluded. He went 5-0. He won every game that he started, and that's excluding the Miami game. 6-0 really, if you want to include that too. And then they entered the playoffs and won the first round, and he was pretty electric in the wild card round against the Seahawks. He had 332 passing yards. He had 4 total touchdowns. It was the first time a rookie quarterback ever had 4 touchdowns in a game. And they beat the Seahawks in that game. Then they advanced to the divisional round, and they beat the Cowboys 19-12. And Purdy with a modest statistical performance, 19 of 29 for 214 yards. He was just the third quarterback since 1970 to actually win 2 playoff games as a rookie. And you can start to imagine the improbability of that, from being the 262nd pick to now a rookie quarterback who went 5-0 and starts in the regular season, and now 2-0 proceeding through 2 rounds of the playoffs. And then, a very unfortunate fork in the road, or I don't know, an unfortunate turn was taken in the NFC Championship game, where Brock Purdy was sacked in the first series of the game, and he tore his UCL in his elbow, and he left the game. And then he came back for a little while just to hand the ball off, but the game was out of reach, and the Eagles ended up pummeling the 49ers 31-7. And so, Purdy gets the first loss in a game that he started, but I find it hard to count that loss against him. The only loss that he ultimately suffered was that NFC Championship game where he got injured on a sack on the first series. So quite an exciting rookie season. And then in 2023, he was named the full-time starter. He was named QB1, and that was after a long offseason rehab to treat his elbow after the UCL injury. So it was still a lot of adversity for Purdy, even in that offseason, even after all the things he had accomplished during his rookie season, still coming back from that injury, having to earn the QB1 spot, but he did. And then in his 2023 season, it was one of the better quarterback seasons that the league has ever seen. So in that season, Purdy led the NFL in passer rating with a passer rating of 113. He led the NFL in QBR, quarterback rating, at 72.8. He led the NFL in yards per attempt at 9.6. And then, big picture numbers, he threw for about 4,300 yards and 31 touchdowns, both of which were San Francisco 49er records. And we know that offensive counting stats are inflated in this era, both because of the 17th game and also because of the style of the game and the style of officiating. But still, there are some illustrious names who are 49ers quarterbacks that Purdy now has displaced in terms of passing yards in a season, passing touchdowns in a season. During that regular season, the 49ers ended up securing the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. And Purdy went 12-4 as a starter in that season, and he would get elected to the Pro Bowl, but he would ultimately lose MVP despite checking all the boxes that typically predict MVP, such as leading the league in QBR, having a number 1 overall seed, leading the league in passer rating, breaking franchise records, being an incredible underdog story. I mean, everything was there. The narrative was there. The statistics were there. In my estimation, based on the statistical patterns or the statistical evidence that's usually used to argue for who the best players in the NFL, I think Purdy had almost a slam dunk case as being the best player in the NFL that season, period. And instead, I don't even believe he finished top 3 in MVP voting. The MVP that season went to Lamar, who had a very good season. I think he was 4th in QBR. He was maybe top 5 in some of the big quarterback metrics. And I believe the Ravens secured the number 1 seed in the AFC and may have even had a better overall record than the 49ers. I'm pretty sure they did. But the pivotal moment, the narrative moment that gets pointed to as being the reason why Lamar won is because the Ravens absolutely blew out the 49ers in a late regular season game. I think Purdy had like 4 interceptions or something. It was a very bad game by Purdy. It was a very dominant game by the Ravens. And so in that head-to-head matchup, the Ravens dominated them. And so that's sort of pointed to as the game that won the MVP for Lamar. But any scrutiny of that argument quickly falls apart when we realize that MVP is not a single game award; it's a whole season award, and that if we are awarding MVPs based on single season performances, I mean, there was a game earlier in that season where Gardner Minshew thoroughly outplayed Lamar Jackson. I'm pretty sure Minshew was a quarterback, whoever the Raiders quarterback was. Lamar had his fair share of stinkers that season too. So I don't think it's hard conceptually to assess awards voting based on the entirety of a season rather than just, well, this game happened to be on prime time, so let's base our votes on that. But one of the main explanations given for why Purdy didn't get the MVP that year was because of that primetime game and him playing poorly in it. But he had a second chance in the second season, in the postseason, to prove his mettle. And in that postseason, the first playoff game for the 49ers, I remember watching this game from our Dallas apartment. Josh was in town visiting, and it was the 49ers and the Packers, and the game was in San Francisco, and it was raining. And I just remember the 49ers were down, and they drove down the field. Purdy had one of the craziest passes. Hard to know if it was just a fluke or if it was on purpose, but he sort of threw the ball, over several defenders and right into the midst of, I think it was Juwan Jennings. A very iconic play for him. But the 49ers came back, took the lead, and then Jordan Love threw an interception. Granted, slippery ball, wet conditions on the Packers' drive to end the game. And then in the second round, Purdy went up against the Lions, who were an offensive juggernaut that season. And they fell down big. I'm pretty sure they were down 17 points at the half. And but Purdy and the 49ers came back to win that game 34-31, which granted them access to the Super Bowl. And I believe a 17-point halftime deficit tied the record for the biggest comeback in playoff history, or maybe it was NFC Championship game history. But it was one of the better comebacks you'll see. And then in the Super Bowl, Purdy and the 49ers played the Chiefs to a draw. 49ers suffered an unfortunate injury when I'm pretty sure it was Greenlaw, one of their most important linebackers, went down with an injury that would actually keep him out for the rest of the next season. And I think it was Achilles, or I don't remember. It was a bad one. So they had been doing a pretty good job of containing Kelsey up until he went out, and then their defense sort of started to fall apart after that. But nonetheless, that and Christian McCaffrey's fumble in that game. McCaffrey had a good game overall for sure. McCaffrey, I'm pretty sure, was the first player to ever record 75 plus receiving yards and 75 plus rushing yards in a Super Bowl. But McCaffrey had a fumble earlier in that game that probably, if you could just take away that one play, that might have swung that game. But anyway, that game went to overtime, 22-22. It was tied, and then in overtime, they ended up losing to Mahomes. So it was a great. I think the overtime drive, the Andy Reid busted out the corn dog play that ended up sealing the victory for the Chiefs with the touchdown drive. And it was, if memory serves, I think the 49ers might have, I don't remember if they punted or if the 49ers went down and got a field goal and then kicked it back off to the Chiefs, and the Chiefs came down and got a touchdown. But either way, good luck winning if what you're up against is a sudden death situation and Patrick Mahomes has the ball. So, and Andy Reid's calling the plays. So, but anyway, Purdy played pretty well in that Super Bowl. In terms of expected QBR, which is a metric published by RBSDM, Purdy played slightly better than Mahomes in that Super Bowl. So then we get to the 2024 season. I mean, absolutely a storybook first 2 seasons for Brock Purdy, which would have been capped off by winning that Super Bowl. But he didn't, and instead that had big legacy implications for Patrick Mahomes, who was able to take home his 3rd Super Bowl and his 3rd Super Bowl MVP. And the ripple effects of just that one overtime, to turn that one Christian McCaffrey fumble being the difference between Patrick Mahomes. As of today, he's 3-2 in Super Bowls. Maybe now he's 2-3, and he has 3 Super Bowl MVPs. Maybe now he only has 2. He has 5 total MVPs today. Maybe he only has 4, and maybe he's not even in the tier of Joe Montana and Aaron Rodgers, who have 5 total MVPs. Maybe Mahomes isn't even seen in that tier. I certainly wouldn't quite see him the same if he didn't have that 3rd Super Bowl MVP. And how could you, right? Like that's such an important accolade. So Purdy nearly had the perfect storybook first 2 seasons, but ended up losing in the Super Bowl. But I'd seen enough, as we'll see when we get to the timeline of my Purdy collection accumulating. Okay, but then we get to the 2024 season, the most recent season, and this was just a terrible season. It was a terrible season for the 49ers. It was a rough season for Purdy, given the standard that he had established for himself. The 49ers went 6-11 last year. They finished last in the NFC West. They missed the playoffs. Purdy, his stats were modest: 3,900 yards, 20 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He had a QBR of 67.9, which was good for 7th in the league, but DVOA had him ranked as the 7th best quarterback by whatever metrics they were using, and he finished ahead of Patrick Mahomes in QBR in 2024. Mahomes was 8th, so he was still putting up borderline elite production, at least in terms of comprehensive catch-alls like QBR. But clearly it didn't translate to winning. It just wasn't enough. And Purdy also sort of, as an example, the team, without making excuses, but the team was ravaged with injuries. So Purdy had 5 rushing touchdowns on the season. He led the team in rushing touchdowns with 5. Purdy also ended up missing 2 games towards the end of the season with elbow nerve issues, so he was out week 17 and week 18. Yeah, I mean, Ayuk was out, McCaffrey was out. Ayuk missed pretty much the whole season. McCaffrey missed much of the season. Bosa and Greenlaw both also were hurt long term. I mean, a lot of their best players were out, and so 2024 was just an awful season. It was a season I was very much looking forward to as a collector of his and a newly minted fan and admirer. And it was, and also as somebody rooting for Christian McCaffrey. And, it was a terrible season. But nonetheless, after that season, Purdy still was offered and signed a 5-year, $265 million extension with $181 million guaranteed. And so the 49ers still put the future of the franchise in his hands. And when you sort of review his metrics, how could you not? He's indisputably by metrics like pass rating and QBR, a top 7 quarterback. Even if you take the worst sample, the worst part of the sample, which was his 2024 season, and then on the other side, on the best scenario side, he's arguably the best quarterback or one of the best quarterbacks. If you take his 2023 season as the baseline that we'll use to analyze him, where he led the league in virtually every quarterback statistic, every advanced quarterback statistic, QBR, passer rating, yards per attempt, adjusted net yards per attempt, yards per catch, on and on. He was first in all of those, and then not only did he do that in the regular season, but then he backed it up with 2 incredible playoff comebacks, and then playing the world champion Chiefs to a draw in regulation, and then ultimately losing in overtime because you ran out of time. It's sudden death once Mahomes got the ball and scored a touchdown. So that's the narrative arc for Brock Purdy. and it's you can see what a compelling story it is, I think, from start to finish, and how improbable so many parts of it have been, and how sort of inspirational it is that the 49ers were willing to go with him for that 2023 season, and now they've bet their future on him. So let me now move on to that. So that's the narrative side of things. Let me talk about bigger picture metrics rather than narrative. So Purdy, among players who have attempted at least 1,000 passes in NFL history, Brock Purdy has the highest passer rating in NFL history for career. Purdy's passer rating is 104.9. Followed by Aaron Rodgers at 102.6, Patrick Mahomes at 102.1, Lamar Jackson at 102, Joe Burrow at 101.2. There's your top five. And you'll notice that outside of Aaron Rodgers, all these other guys haven't had the quote unquote back half of their career. So career numbers are always inflated in favor of guys who have racked up much of their prime in their best seasons and haven't had their worst yet. But Purdy's a little bit different. Purdy's only played 3 seasons. He theoretically he shouldn't have hit his prime yet. So, he's a guy who he only has the ramp up portion of his statistical performance factored in, and yet here he is sitting atop this list. So if he follows sort of a normal trajectory, he should theoretically continue to get better. And this may be sustainable if that is the trajectory. This isn't quite a situation where we have a guy who's played 10 seasons and 7 of them were just absolute peak, and now suddenly the guy's looking at having the back half or the twilight years of his career, which are going to drag down the average. That's really not quite what's going on here with Purdy. So he is a top passer rating, and then looking at a different stat, looking at adjusted EPA per play, and the adjustments being capping the negative value of turnovers at the average value of a turnover, so that certain turnovers can be costlier than others in the measurement of EPA, and this sort of caps the damage that can be done as a rough way of controlling for the outsized impact that a particularly penalizing negative play can have. And I'm not going to go into methodology of passer rating, QBR, or EPA today, but we will do that as we get closer to the NFL season. And I love that stuff. So it'll be fun to get a refresher and an update on it. We'll talk about it more. But what I do want to show here is that in terms of adjusted EPA per play, this is coming from rbsdm.com with the sample size of going back to the 1999 season. And EPA, I'm not quite sure how far back EPA databases go, but it's cool that EPA even goes back as far as 1999. But from 1999 to 2024, among players who have had at least, or among quarterbacks who have had at least 1,000 action plays, meaning plays other than handoffs or things that don't get attributed to a quarterback, among QBs with 1,000 action plays, Purdy has the highest adjusted EPA per play of any player in this data set. And it's a virtual tie with Mahomes. So Mahomes' adjusted EPA per play is 0.266, Purdy's is 0.267, and Peyton is virtually tied with him as well at 0.263. But I do believe this data set is excluding one Peyton season and a pretty bad Peyton season at that. So his number might come down a tiny bit if we also included the 1998 season. But those 3 basically are there, and then fourth is Tom Brady, 0.214, and fifth is Aaron Rodgers, 0.212. So they're in this 1999 through 2024 sample. Those are your guys with the best adjusted EPA per play. If you remove the EPA adjustment, Mahomes takes the narrowest lead over Purdy. Mahomes' EPA per play becomes 0.255, Purdy's becomes 0.254, and then Peyton Manning again is right there in third at 0.247. So you have these 3 sort of statistical outliers, and so we're looking at that in table form. I can show you too in graph form too. So here's a nice graphic visual, And if this is every quarterback with at least 1,000 pass attempts, and it's just a mess. It's so many names. Here in the bottom left, which is the quadrant that you don't want to be in, there's Blaine Gabbert and Zach Wilson and Trent Dilfer. And in the upper right, which is the quadrant that you do want to be in, you have Peyton Manning, Brock Purdy, and Patrick Mahomes. And so the y-axis is EPA per play, and the x-axis is completion percentage above expected. And so there you have the statistical big three in the top right. The size of the circle represents the volume of action plays. And so Peyton has about 5,000, and I don't remember. Manning has, Mahomes has, let me flip back. Sorry, Peyton has about 10,000, and Mahomes has about 5,000, and Purdy has about 1,300. So that explains the difference in size of those circles. Peyton is in the optimal position. He's in the upper right. His completion percentage above expected is almost the very best of anybody. And then his EPA per play is almost the best of anybody too. Then you have Purdy and Mahomes, who are just literally their dots are sitting right on top of each other. They have a very similar CPOE, completion percentage over expected, and they have a very similar EPA per play. So there's a graphical version of it. And then sort of as you come down a little bit, the guys who are a little bit lower on EPA per play, Tom Brady, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Tony Romo, Matt Ryan, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, and then the completion percentage over expected guys. Russell Wilson's really high on that. Kurt Warner's really high on that. Peyton, Tony Romo again. So anyway, all right. So that's sort of the big picture overview. I mean, like, look, Purdy is not exactly heralded by media or by analysts. Most analysts, I think, judge him to be roughly an average quarterback or even below. Suddenly I'm reminded of the Ringer's quarterback list, where I think Purdy struggled to even crack into the top 20, even during his 2023 season, which was highly amusing because one of the features of that website was to show some of the metrics of these quarterbacks, including completion percentage over expected and yards per attempt and stuff like that. And Purdy was just, when you got to his section, Purdy was first in every metric. But the author, Stephen Ruiz, can continue to rank him, somewhere in like the 21st range or something like that. And it was like, at a certain point, I mean, when are we gonna? And then that was during the regular season. And then the playoffs come along, and he leads these incredible comebacks, and he goes up against that Chiefs defense and gets all the way to overtime and almost gets it done. And it would be really hard to say they lost the Super Bowl because of him. I don't think they did. I think he did enough to win. So, but I'm curious. I don't have it pulled up right now, but I'm so curious where the Ringer QB rankings have Purdy right now that I almost have to look it up. So, and this has been a trend, throughout not just Ruiz's list, but a lot of the media, the eye test crew, the film crunchers, not all, especially once you get to more hardcore films analysts, I think they tend to be higher on Purdy, but sort of the guy who just watches everything, sort of, but watches a bit of everything and doesn't really want to let the statistics inform his opinion. That crew, I think, like Chris Sims continues to rank Purdy somewhere in the mid-teens. And I mean, what do I know compared to a guy like Chris Sims, right? I mean, he's an expert in his field. There's plenty of people who agree with him. Certainly, what I think doesn't hold a candle to what he thinks. But on the other hand, these metrics that have been correlated with and predictive of awards and just frankly success in the postseason and in the regular season, all those metrics are screaming that Brock Purdy is much better than a middling quarterback. So I've got the Ringer's QB rankings pulled up here, and I'm just gonna sort of see how far I can go before I get to Purdy. So Purdy is not in the top 10. The top 10 are Lamar, Allen, Mahomes, Herbert, Burrow, Stafford, Jordan Love, Geno Smith, Dak Prescott, and Stroud. So that rounds out the top 10, with Lamar being first, the reigning, Josh Allen's now the reigning MVP. 11th is Goff. 12th is Kyler. 13th is T-Law. 14th is Aaron Rodgers. 15th is Jalen Hurts. 16th is Tua. 17th is Baker. Still haven't gotten to Purdy yet. 18th is Derek Carr. I think he's retired. 19th is Drake May. 20th is Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels should be higher. And then 21st is Brock Purdy. So still not cracking the top 20. I guess having the highest career passer rating, the highest career adjusted EPA per play, and living here on this graph right next to Peyton Manning and Patrick Mahomes. It's just not enough to get you in the top 20 active quarterbacks in the NFL. All right, so enough about Purdy the player. Let's talk about Brock Purdy cards. And here is where we will go with this. So the first card I'm showing is Purdy's Prism Gold rookie year card, PSA 10. And I don't own this card anymore. And normally I wouldn't show. This is somebody else's card now, and I don't want to try to grab attention to myself or sort of make content about somebody else's card. It's their card. It's their right to share the card and show off the card and enjoy the discussions and the relationships and the engagement and everything else, that all the bundle of privileges that attach to owning a card. But so I acknowledge that, and I couldn't think of a smoother way to do this, but this card is sort of part of my story of collecting Purdy, in the sense that I ended up trading this card for a card that comes later. And so it sort of sets the stage for a discussion that's coming in the future. And it's also it is the first Purdy card I ever acquired. So I remember watching the 2023 season. I remember keeping very close tabs on the QBR rankings and just all the metrics, and just thinking to myself, like, man, this guy Purdy might be really special. And then I watched him during the regular season. I watched him do it in the playoffs. And then I watched him do it in the Super Bowl. And even though they lost the Super Bowl, after the Super Bowl, I said, I need to take a shot at collecting this guy, at least for a little while. Let me see if I like it, and let's see where it goes. And so it was after that Super Bowl loss, shortly after, it was actually February 15th, 2024, that I ended up picking up this Purdy. I remember I found it somewhere on Instagram, and the seller was willing to let it go without much of a fight. I think I ended up paying $30,000 for it. And I don't know. Purdy's market, or at least his card letter index, is down since then for sure. But I don't know if this card's value is down. Purdy just had a PSA 9 Prism Gold sell for a record high. I think it was around 16,000, maybe 17,000 a few days ago. So I don't know what the PSA 10 to PSA 9 multiplier is on Prism Gold or on this card, but I don't think it's unreasonable to think this card is probably about a $30,000 card or so, based on that PSA 9 sale. So this card's probably held its value okay since the time when I consummated a sale for it following the Super Bowl. But just keep that in mind that this was my first foray into Purdy, and then I didn't add anything of Purdy for a while. So I picked that up in February, and then I just sort of sat back. I think I kept an eye on things, but the Prism Gold is like that sort of that entry card, for somebody who really wants to like get into collecting a player, but stay in the shallow end, not get into the weeds of all the different cards that they might have, and just go with a real a great card that is also just a surface level entry into collecting a player. So we started there, and then I guess about I don't know, 8-ish months passed, and then this is the second card that I added to the Purdy PC. Now every card from here on out I do have and I do own. And so this card is the 2022 Rookies and Stars Brock Purdy. This was October 15th of 2024 that I picked up this Purdy, and it was purchased on eBay raw, and it's still in its eBay authenticated one touch. I hope to grade that at the National this year, but I picked up for about $1,000 after all in shipping, sales tax, etc. It cost me about $1,000, and that was October 2024, which I think the 49ers season was already starting to look a little bit questionable then. But it didn't. That's almost a better test of how much I like a player than how much do I like them when they're doing well, is how much do I like them when they're not doing well, and do I still want to be a collector of that player? So that was the next Purdy to get added to the PC, and then after that came his 2022 flawless, Black Diamond 1/1. I should mention too that for the podcast audio only listeners, the Rookie and Stars card is that was card number 145 from the base set. It was Purdy's first appearing, and I think only appearing card in that base set. And it's the Rookies and Stars. What's the name of the Platinum 1/1, and it's the only 1/1. Okay, so then the next card here was the 2022 Flawless Black Diamond 1/1, card number 96 to the base set, Purdy's first and only flawless base set card. This card had two 1/1s. It has a Platinum 1/1 and this Black 1/1. And I think the Platinum is a bit of a better card. It's got a better legacy in terms of flawless, but I do enjoy this card quite a bit too. It's got a nice shiny surface, cool pose of Purdy, and nice thick, a nice thick BGS holder for the thick flawless card. So this is actually the only flawless card I have in my collection. I'm pretty sure, and I like it. I think it's a nice card. I think it's a really fun way to collect flawless. Actually, is to focus on these diamond cards from the base sets. The flawless product configuration. It's a very interesting product configuration because I think that hobby consensus, I can say without much controversy, is surrounding the patch autograph cards, the patch cards, and the autograph cards. And then the crown jewel, I think, of most players' offerings and flawless is going to be the shield signatures or some version of a 1/1 of a memorabilia or a memorabilia autograph card or an autograph card. And that's just not the approach that I'm particularly taking, because flawless in its construction, each of those cards exists as an insert set. All the memorabilia and the memorabilia autograph cards are typically they're inserts. There are some years of flawless where a player's first appearing base set card isn't a sort of diamond base set card like this one is, but instead it's an autograph card. I think 2017 flawless, I think McCaffrey, if I remember right, I think Christian McCaffrey's first appearing base card in 2017 flawless actually is an autograph card. But typically a player's first flawless card in their first appearance in the flawless base set is a card just like this. And so I think it's an interesting way to collect flawless and sort of sidestep the ultra expensive patch autograph stuff. This particular Purdy card ended up costing me $4,500. Somebody had purchased it from Alt for like half that, and then listed it on eBay for resale, and then negotiated with them a little bit, and I don't know. I ended up paying $4,500 for it. I felt a little bit better about that purchase after his Platinum 1/1 came up for sale and sold for like $8 or $9 grand a few months later. And I was competing for that Platinum, but it got too high. It got too high for me. So that card was added to the Purdy collection on December 27th of 2024. So these are mid-season acquisitions that I'm having, and sort of the date is interesting, not just because it reflects sort of like my appetite as a buyer. Like, I took 8 months off after I got the Prism Gold, and then I decided I wanted to get a little deeper into collecting Purdy. But it's also reflective of when sellers are willing to make things available. And it almost seems as if there was a sort of bailout, or not a bailout, but like sellers bailing on Purdy to some extent. Like, well, the season isn't going so well. Do I really want to hold these Purdy cards for the rest of this disappointing season and then a long off season? And maybe he's not going to sign an extension, then his cards could really lose a lot of momentum. So I think there was a bit of a sell off of Purdy in a declining market, or at least in a market of declining enthusiasm, especially among short-term minded, flippers, dealers, and stuff like that, but also just as a general sentiment regarding him. Which is what makes it good that the media and the hobby never got too high on him, even during his remarkable 2023 season. Because had it gotten higher on him, the fall off would have been harsher and more severe. But instead, because he never really got super duper high, and the media never got super duper high on him, and the hobby never got overly high. I mean, the hobby got. It would be ridiculous to say the hobby didn't get high on him when he had multiple six-figure sales, but it didn't get too high on him. It didn't get so high that cards were losing 90% of their value or anything like that. But well, I don't know. Somebody could probably pull up an example where one did. Who knows? I'm just sort of trying to roughly estimate my sense of how things unfolded, which is that because the media and the hobby never got overly bullish on him, that the disappointing 2024 season didn't hurt as much. Okay, so that is the flawless Black Diamond. Here's the next card that I picked up of Purdy, which I have logged as a purchase date of the exact same date. And so this next card was the 2022 Select Club Level Black 1 of 1. And this card came onto my radar. I also, like I said, I also have a purchase price of December 27th, 2024. So it's just funny how that works. Like to both of these cards, the Flawless and the Select, really cool rookie year 1 of 1 base set cards becoming available. The deal with the 2022 Select Club Level Purdy, this card showed up on a Facebook group, and I think roughly the story was a guy pulled it in a break, and then the breaker sort of advised him to grade it with PSA, and he did. And the breaker sort of advised him, like, you should just grade that authentic. It's a 1 of 1. You don't need to worry. I think that's what he was explaining to me, but anyway, several people sent me sort of this Facebook post when the card became available, and the guy was kind of asking, "Hey, what do you think this is worth?" type of stuff. And so I reached out, and we made contact, and we kind of went back and forth for a little while. And I made my offer, and he didn't really want to. He felt, I think he thought the card was worth a lot more. He was hoping it would be a lot more than what I was offering for it. But Select is a pretty convoluted product. Purdy appeared in 2 tiers, I think, in 2022, and I'm pretty sure he's got a field level also. And then there's multiple 1 of 1s to each of those tiers. But the reason why this one caught my eye, and the reason why I pursued this one, was because this particular one it's Purdy's first appearing Select card in the base set. Club level was the first time that he appeared. He wasn't in Concourse. He wasn't in Premier. This is his first appearing card. It's card number 213. So 213 is the first time that Purdy appears in the Select base set. And then this is the Black 1 of 1, the Black Prism 1 of 1. And it's not any of the modified blacks or the other later arriving 1 of 1 parallels. This is the legacy true Black 1 of 1 Select parallel for Purdy. So this is the chase card for Purdy in Select for me. And so I ultimately offered $7,500 for the card, and eventually the seller came around to accepting it, I think. And I don't think he could get a better offer. I don't know how hard he tried, but I don't think he was able to get one. And that makes sense, just given this was coming towards the tail end of a very disappointing season. But there was a logistical problem, which was the seller was located in New York, and not in the city, but in a more rural part of New York. And he wanted to do the deal in person. He didn't want to do the sale by mail, which is fine. So we worked out sort of a compromise arrangement where I would have him come into a card shop in the New York area, and then a friend of mine who worked at that card shop at the time middleman the deal. And so, it was a safe sort of destination that I could guide the seller to. Hey, please visit this card shop in New York City, and then once you're there, one of the people who works there will give you the cash, the $7,500 in cash, and then you can hand off the card to him, and then we'll be done. And so it required some coordinating. It required some group chats and some going back and forth and sending pictures. This is what he looks like. This is what the other guy looks like, and timing, and it can get complicated quickly trying to get everybody together in the same room at the same time to make a swap. But we made the swap, and then my buddy at the card shop overnighted it to me, and it got here with no problems. And I certainly compensated my buddy who middleman that deal and went out of his way to do that. Okay, so that brings up the next card, that cues up the next card, which now this is why I brought up the Prism Gold as the first Purdy card add to the collection, because what once I started adding these 1-of-1 Purdys, and so by this time I've got 3 1-of-1 rookie year Purdys, the Rookies and Stars base set, the Flawless Black Diamond base set, and the Select Club Level Black base set. By this time, I've sort of decided that this is the direction I want to go with Purdy collecting, and this can be a really fun collection angle, actually, to sort of try to avoid going too far into the hype surrounding quarterback by sort of staying away from cards like the Gold Prism or the NTRPA, which are very obvious entry cards at the high end for a player, for a quarterback, and that are quite they're targeted very aggressively by dealers and flippers and investors. And so maybe I can just step away from that arena and just enjoy collecting Purdy in a different way, and collect some stuff that like that. That's my it's my first Flawless card, for example. So I can experiment. I can try some new things here. And so the direction that Purdy PC quickly was sort of shifting away from Gold Prism out of 10 type of cards. And my opportunity to relieve myself of the Prism Gold and to pivot into a different card that I found more interesting for the purposes of the Purdy collection came at the January Dallas Card Show. So I actually, a friend of mine who is a fellow Jokic collector alerted me to the fact that he had just been at a card show in Florida, and he saw in a display case Brock Purdy's 2022 Prism Black Stars 1-of-1, also graded PSA 10, just like my gold was or whatever. It still is, but it was mine and now it's not. That's a weird grammar thing. Okay, but anyway, he saw the card and he said, "Hey, look, I know you like Purdy. Like, this is an interesting card. What do you think?" And so he gave me the information of the dealer. I ended up contacting the dealer, and we sort of went back and forth a little bit. And I sort of said, "Hey, what would you think about a 1-for-1 trade of I've got the Prism Gold PSA 10 out of 10. You've got this Prism Black Stars 1-of-1 PSA 10. Would you consider a 1-for-1 trade?" I think we went back a little bit, and he said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And then we had to work out the logistics, and the logistics ended up being that we would meet at the Dallas Card Show. And this time, Christine and I still lived in Dallas. So that was a very easy trip for us. And this individual is a dealer, so he was coming to the show anyway. So that was pretty straightforward, a pretty easy and straightforward way to make an exchange. So I went to the show, brought the gold. We made the swap at the show, and now I have the Black Stars. So there it is, the Prism Black Stars 2022 Purdy 1-of-1. It's one of 3 1-of-1s. Purdy has from Prism, he has the Black Finite 1-of-1. He has the Black Stars 1-of-1, and he has a black shimmer 1/1. Those are the 3 base set parallels for Purdy, and the 3 base set parallels in general to 2022 Prism football. And what's kind of neat about the Black Stars is that 2022 was the first year of the Prism Black Stars parallel. So there's an unusual number of firsts here. It's Purdy's first Prism card, and it's also the first year of the Prism Black Stars, and it's Purdy's first Prism Black Stars card. So it's always cool when you get not only a player's first, but also a set's first. It's the first instance of the Black Stars 1/1 set. The next pickup, which came just a few days later, so that pickup was January 17th of 2025. The next pickup came just a few days later, I think 4 days later. Yeah, so January 21st, 2025, I quickly added the second year of the Purdy Black Stars 1/1, the 2023 Prism Black Stars 1/1 of Purdy. I like the way the Black Stars looked. I don't think it's more beautiful than the Black Finite. It's not. I love Black Finite. I don't think it's more beautiful than the pure black of that Prism Basketball has. But I do like it. I do like the way it looks. And so I sort of started scrambling quickly to pick up the second one. And it just so happened that I think this second one had actually run at auction on eBay a few times with like a starting price of like $1,300 or $1,400 or something. Just it got 0 bids, then it got run again. And then I just saw it and I said, I'll take it. I want that. So I snapped that one up on eBay. All in, my all in cost was about $1,400 once sales tax and all that stuff's factored in. I don't remember exactly what the comp was, but there's my fee sometimes is a little bit higher than the comp because of the sales tax stuff. And for my bookkeeping, I record my fee. I don't record what the comp was. So I know that my cost was around $1,400 for that card. So let me flip to showing the scan of it here briefly. There it is. And let me use this as an opportunity to say a little bit about the Black Stars. So the Black Stars pretty clearly takes its inspiration in terms of design from the 1999 Skybox Star Rubies, or one of the years of Star Rubies that sort of has this pattern, right? Like, so I have the 99 Skybox Premium Star Rubies Peyton on the screen right now, and then I'm showing to the camera the Purdy trying to capture the actual effect of the stars on the card surface, so you can sort of see that it's the same pattern. It's the little stars pattern that adorn the card surface and sort of add depth and shininess to the card. It's the same, or it's highly similar between the Peyton they have on the screen and the Purdy. And actually, I was alerted by a friend that the first appearance of that stars pattern actually, it seems to be the 1998 Score Showcase Artist Proofs 1/1. And so I have on the screen Brett Favre's card from that set. Or I don't know if he has multiple cards from that set or not, but this is from the PC of Prison Mike that I grabbed this picture. So my friend sent me this and said, I think this is actually the first time that stars pattern was used, was the Score Showcase Artist Proof set. And so the Favre I'm showing is number PP53. And it's got a really neat, a very unorthodox 1/1 stamp. Big Score 1/1 stamp there on the front. It's pretty cool looking. So I think that was the first time the stars pattern got introduced, and then sort of the Star Rubies, popularized it, and then now it shows up on these Purdy cards. Okay, the next card to discuss here as we wind down, I've got 3 more cards to go over. The next one is this card, which is the 2022 Panini Honors base set Purdy. I'm not a huge fan of Honors. I think that the cards are cool, but I just get annoyed that they create some confusion in the market from time to time. I've done other bits on Panini Honors, so I won't do that bit again here. But here's the story behind this card. And this card is a really neat surface. When my my friend who sold it to me, he said, hey, once he got it in hand, because he kind of knew I was looking for Purdy rookie year 1/1s, and I think he knew somebody who had it, and he was like, well, if I can sell it to Chris, then I'll go pick it up. And so he went, and once we agreed to a deal, he got the card. I think that's how it played. Maybe he already had it. I don't know. I don't want to imagine something that didn't happen. But anyway, he sort of said the surface to this card is really unique. He's like, I've never quite seen a surface finish like this before. And I once I got it in hand, I happen to agree. It has a really unique finish to it. And sort of, you can see in the scan here, particularly that I have on the screen, the word rookie is layered into the card's background, running vertically. So an interesting, unique looking card. I believe this is a 1/1. And it's Purdy's first appearing base set card in honors, and so it's not a recycled card or a repurposed card like much of honors is. It has the big honors brand logo. It's not a reissue of a later year or something like that, or an extra copy that got repurposed with an autograph or something. It's none of those things. It's a true base set card of Purdy from the honors product. It's card number 61. Two more Purdy's here. So by the way, that card was acquired in February of 2025, long after the 49ers season had ended. And then what came after that was the third year, the 2024 Prism Black Stars 1/1. So as I pull up the scan of that, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about how I got it. So here it is, the 2024 Prism Black Stars 1/1 Brock Purdy. This is his third year of it, and I by this point, I want to complete the run. I think there should only be one more year of Prism Black Stars for Purdy. So by this point, I really want to complete that run, and its lineage is perfectly married to Purdy's career, right? Because it like Purdy joined or first appeared in Prism in 2022. So there's a cool relationship between Purdy and this particular parallel. And so the story here, this was picked up in March 4th of 2025 for $2,500. And I think I neglected to mention what I ended up getting that honors for. So if I can just backtrack for a second, yeah, my records indicate I paid $1,000 for the honors, and then for this third year, Prism Black Stars 1/1, it looks like I paid $2,500, and it's still got this Panini seal on it, as you can see. This showed up in a box at a hobby shop. If it was somewhere in the Northwest, I think the hobby shop was in Montana or something like that. But the card showed up, and we had to do a little bit of negotiating. I sort of had to wait and be patient, and sort of eventually we came around to settle on a $2,500 price. The way that the Black Stars are distributed is they're distributed in their own. They come one per box in like these Panini factory box sets that have like the Pandora parallel or something. I should have looked this up before the stream, but that's the reason why it has the Panini seal, is because it's the hit in each one of those boxes. I believe there's like 400 base set cards, and so there's one Black Stars 1/1, so there's 400 total Black Stars 1/1s for all the different players in the set. And I believe they come one per box. I believe that's how that product works. So this shop, I believe, had gotten a bunch of these sets to open to see if they, and obviously, like, you open these boxes hoping to get the Black Stars 1/1 or of a big player. And I think they did. I think they hit the Jaden Daniels. But one of the leftover hits was this Purdy. And so I was alerted to it by the shop, and then somebody alerted me to the fact that the shop had it, and then I went ahead and got it. So I'm trying to do some quick research, but I'm sorry, I'm pretty sure that's the way that the Black Stars works. But I can't remember. I'm pretty sure that the box, like the exclusive parallels are like maybe the Pandora out of 400 or something, and the Black Stars 1 of 1. But sorry, you may need to look that up later on your own if you're curious. And then and here's the final card that has been added to the Purdy PC. Final card is the 2023 Select Club Level again. So the second year club level PSA 10 of Purdy. And this one I acquired at cost, at the buyer's cost of $2,000. So it was purchased by a collector friend of mine who something prompted him to sort of message me. I think maybe I was sharing some Purdy cards to social media or something. And he said, "Hey, I have this second year club level Purdy. That might make a nice pair with your first year club level Purdy. Are you interested?" And I said, "Yeah, absolutely." And so and when I've shown the Purdy PC to a few people, several have remarked that this is a really sharp looking card. I like it. I'm not totally as mesmerized or blown away by it as some others are, but it seems to be a universally praised card for its design and its photo and stuff. And so then so there's two instances then in the collection of these pairs or trios where Purdy's club level select black 1/1 from his rookie year is an important card because that's his first appearance select card. So then I like to pair it with other club level black 1/1s of Purdy if I can find them. Same theme with collecting the Prism Black Stars 1/1s. The idea there being that if I can get more of these, it's fun. It's something cool to collect. They're not rookie year cards, obviously, but they connect very strongly to an important rookie year card. And I remember I was trying to do the same thing with the Rookies and Stars because his second year Rookies and Stars was showing up on eBay, but I tried negotiating with the seller, and the seller wanted, I think, like low 4 figures for it, maybe, or they wanted a strong price, and I would just say, look, I paid less than that for the rookie. So I would love this card, but I just can't justify it, and I don't think. Well, obviously, I never made a deal for it, but I don't think I ever actually saw it sell either. At least not in a consummated transaction. I think I saw it get relisted a few times. All right, so that's been a walkthrough of the Purdy PC, which I had sort of grown a little bit lukewarm towards it. I still like, all I have to do is pull up, all-time passer rating or EPA stats, and that's more than sufficient to get me excited about Purdy, especially because of the combination of the fact that Purdy scores so highly on those metrics, and the fact that that the media it just doesn't like him at all. That's where I love to be, is when I have a slam dunk statistical case that supports a player and the eye test gurus hate him. So the hype never really gets off the ground for him in the same way that it does for other players who arguably have more aesthetically appealing styles of play. And then I can sort of enjoy collecting really cool cards of a player that I think is terrific, that I think measures very well against the all-time greats, and I don't really ever have to compete with an abundance of hype that I might have to compete with if Purdy was, say, 6'5" and had a rocket arm and had more of the prototypical ultra modern quarterback features that the eye test wants to see. But let me as I was saying, I was sort of getting a little lukewarm towards Purdy, but the football season's coming, and I like every week on social media, I like to sort of publish updates on QBR and who's leading the league, and QBR has been pretty predictive of who ends up winning MVP. And so I just like to follow that stuff, and I just know that I'll be FOMOing terribly if this season starts. Then Purdy's having a great statistical season again, and I'll as I become a bigger and bigger football fan, I want skin in that game. I want to be part of the action. And Purdy has been a really nice conduit for that. But nonetheless, I just with a disappointing season and then the long off season and just sort of knowing the mountain that any quarterback has to climb. So, for example, will Purdy ever get to 5 total MVPs, which is where Aaron Rodgers and Joe Montana and Patrick Mahomes live? Will he ever get to 6, which is where Peyton Manning lives? Will he ever get to 8, which is where Tom Brady's at? Will he even get to 2, which is where Lamar Jackson is at? I don't know. I could see a path for him getting to 2 if he repeats his statistical success of a season ago. I could see. I think he's shown that he's capable of being the quarterback on a championship team. He very nearly was. But I think it's almost. I think the odds of him ever getting to that 5 total MVP and up club are very, very, very small. And so I think more so the realistic, optimistic case for a guy like Purdy is maybe to, with a long successful career, maybe get to the level of Drew Brees or somebody in that area, like a guy who's universally considered one of the best quarterbacks, has great metrics, and has a great long career spent with one franchise that sort of culminates a lot of goodwill among that fan base and it sort of earns them a place in the history and the legacy of that franchise. That's I think the realistic upside for Purdy, and I think there's an outside chance that maybe he could go a level above that, maybe get to like a Lamar Jackson tier where he gathers several MVPs and he has an extended stint where he's sort of contending to be the top quarterback in the league. But that's okay. That's okay, I think, especially if he sort of charts this path that I sort of think that he's on right now, where he might not ever really get the accolades, and he might not ever win a Super Bowl, but man, he's a fascinating player to me if he ends his career with the highest pass rating of all time, and if he ends his career in the EPA per play ballpark of or tier that Mahomes and Peyton Manning occupy. That's a really fascinating player to me. And also, I've watched him now for several seasons, first as a byproduct of just rooting for McCaffrey since he joined the 49ers, and now because I've become a full-fledged collector and fan of his. So he's a fascinating player, but I also want to be realistic about it. And then there's also the downside risk here. There's the downside potential that maybe he has another down year. Or the 49ers, he was still 7th in QBR last year. Maybe the 49ers, I should say, have a down year. Or he has a down year even worse than what we've seen from him so far. And, what if the 49ers sort of move on from Shanahan? Or what if the 49ers decide to go into a rebuild mode? Granted, they've committed 5 years, $181 million guaranteed to him. But, when a team decides it's going to blow it up and start over, they'll do it. And so he might, who knows? I mean, he could be left twisting in the wind if certain things don't go well. And the NFL, the not for long league, certainly can quickly and harshly turn against a player. And so that would be unfortunate for him, even though he's got his guaranteed money. So in the grand scheme of his personal well-being, he should be just fine. But that would certainly be an unfortunate turn for collectors of him too, because I'm certainly not collecting him strictly based on what he's accomplished through 3 seasons. I'm collecting him with the expectation that he'll continue and hopefully that he'll get even better. But it's important to acknowledge a downside risk too. I mean, this is by far the youngest player in the earliest phase of their career of anybody that I collect. So that's worth acknowledging. That's certainly worth acknowledging all the different ways that this can go. And also everybody's just one injury away too. So having said that, I want to pivot now into discussing Purdy's full rookie year offering, sort of the research that I did that helped inform some of these purchases. So I have pulled up on the screen a spreadsheet that I've made that catalogs what I believe to be all of the different rookie year cards and all of their various parallels, whether they're base set cards or like here, we're getting to the Chronicles part of the spreadsheet, whether it's the first appearing, second appearing, third appearing card in the base set, whether they're insert set cards. As now I get to the flawless part of this list, and you can see that he appears in various flawless inserts. Whichever type of card it is, I tried to catalog all of them, including multiplayer cards. So there's plenty of cards that feature Purdy and Kenny Pickett and Desmond Ridder. NT has a rookie triple booklet insert that has Pickett and Ridder along with Purdy. For example, he was also featured on a card with Breece Hall, the rookie NFL gear combo materials. So I try to create this comprehensive checklist where I visit various different checklist websites and sources and try to compile them all to gather up every single different Purdy card from 2022, meeting the criteria of being fully licensed and excluding printing plates. And so looking at that full list, you can see that this spreadsheet has just over 1,000 rows. It has 1,005 rows, meaning there's 1,005 different cards accounted for, which includes all the different base set parallels, insert set parallels, multiplayer cards, single player cards. And so right away, that's an enormous supply of cards. And so my first pivot once I confront this list that I've made is I do a simple Control F 1 of 1, and let me see how far that shrinks the C. And when I do that, I get 163 results. So I'm not claiming that this is a perfect number. I may have overlooked some. I may have double counted some. I may have errantly recorded a 1 of 1 as existing that doesn't. But I think that's a rough number that's probably pretty good. But I'm certainly not interested in multiplayer cards, especially because I'm not a team collector. I'm not collecting multiple players. I'm just really focused on Purdy here. So then I narrow it to remove the multiplayer cards, and there were 17 of those. And so the 163 figure becomes 146. So basically Purdy has 146 solo 1 of 1 fully licensed cards from his rookie season, which if you remember some of the Mahomes research that I was going over in a previous episode, that number is pretty close to what Mahomes had, which is interesting because Purdy appeared in just 19 of the 37 fully licensed NFL products that were released for the 2022 season. So what that says is that Panini's putting more cards and more parallels of its players into its products now than it was in 2017, which is obvious, right? I don't think I'm saying anything new when I say that. But this is just a little further confirmation of it. But so Purdy does come in a little bit under. I think the Mahomes number was like 160 maybe. And I think Purdy comes in just a little bit under it at 164. And so what happens from here? I'm sorry, 146. Purdy's at 146. Mahomes at like around 160. But comparable. So where do I go from here? Right, because even still, 146 1 of 1s. That's so many. I can't buy them all. I don't have the funds to buy them all. I don't have the attention span to buy them all. I don't have the resources to even hope to find them all. So how do I just sort of set up a search or a look, a watch, a search party, and I use my resources to just dig up every Purdy rookie year 1 of 1, then sort of say, well, I like this one the way it looks. I don't like that one the way it looks. That's just really not my approach. Instead, the approach that I wanted to do was make this list significantly smaller still. And so what I did was I shifted to for Purdy, I shifted so that I only looked at his quote unquote true rookie card 1 of 1 parallels. And I say quote unquote because different people have different concepts of what a true rookie card is, but I loosely define it. And I don't intend for this definition to control over other definitions. I'm just giving you an insight into my own collector mind and the things that sort of conceptually intrigue me. And the one that conceptually intrigues me is this notion of a true rookie card being the player's first appearing card in a product space set. And so what I like about that is the manufacturer can only make one of those. The manufacturer for each product. So like I said, there was 37 fully licensed NFL products. That means that at most a player can have one first appearing base set card from those 37 products. And then Purdy only appeared in 19. So Purdy has just 19 cards that meet the definition of true rookie card, a card that's a first appearing card of Purdy in the products based set. And that boundary is helpful because you can get products where there start to be multiple base set cards of a player appearing. Select has multiple base set cards of a player. Some, I think, Prism this year. There have been instances where even some of the best products, Contenders sometimes, like for example, 2017 Contenders has multiple base set appearances of the rookies. Chronicles has tons of base set appearances of the rookies, and so folks narrowing it to just the first is certainly a way to enjoy the offering from every product, but restrict it so that I don't ever find myself in a position where I sort of have to countenance or permit the manufacturer to put 50 base set 50 different base set cards of the player that I'm collecting into their rookie year catalog from that particular product. And so I'm sort of signaling to the market as just one person, but I'm spending my money on the first appearing and I'm not spending my money on the others for this player. And so in so signaling, the hope is that the manufacturer won't ever think, well, I could just make infinite base set. If the people want the base set parallels, then let's make a bunch of different base set cards of this player. So I'm sort of trying to signal that I do draw a line at some point, and so not only is there sort of a message being communicated through my wallet to the manufacturer, but also this is a way of creating a consistently enforceable theory of rarity as well. So sort of if I consistently enforce this approach when I'm collecting cards of a particular player, then it's a method of limiting the pool of cards that are on my want list. And so it sort of creates rarity in a way that's uniformly and consistently applicable. That I'm not shifting or changing the rules around, whether I'm looking at rookies and stars, whether I'm looking at flawless, whether I'm looking at select, whether I'm looking at prism, whichever product I'm looking at. The one card of this player that I want to hunt from each of these is their first appearing base set card. And so now that player might have 20 different cards and then various parallels in any one of those products, because they might appear multiple times in the base set, they might appear multiple times in the insert set, so on and so forth. But I've set this boundary that creates some rarity, that limits the world of things that I'm looking at, and it does it in a consistently applicable way. So applying that true rookie card logic to Purdy here yields 19 different products that offer a first appearing card, base set card of Purdy. And so then the question becomes, how do we rank them? How do we rank? In particular, in my case, since I'm fascinated by the one of ones, how do I rank those one of one parallels? And so Purdy has 35 total one of one parallels to those 19 total products that offer a first appearing base set of Purdy. So there's 30. So basically I shrunk the C from, started as 163 one of ones, including multiplayer. I took out the multiplayer, which shrunk it down to 146. And then I took out all of the non-first appearing, which that shrinks it down, non-first appearing base set, which then that shrinks it down to 35. And now that it's shrunk to 35, now I've got something I can really wrap my hands around. I've got 35 specific cards that I can be on the lookout for. But even within there, I certainly don't. I don't have the ability to get all 35. I don't want to get all 35. I might not like all 35. This is where the aesthetics really start to factor in, and my subjective sentiment towards brands and certain parallels and how they look and stuff. Now this is when that really starts to kick in. Now that I've narrowed the field enough, now I start making decisions increasingly based on subjective preferences in terms of aesthetics and brand loyalty and nostalgia for particular brands or styles or looking cards and stuff like that. So I have to figure out a way to rank these 35. And so one way that I tried was I did an Instagram story on this about a year and a half ago, where what I did was I said, I have this research project. Identify all Purdy true rookie cards and their rarest parallel. They must be rookie year. They must be fully licensed. They must be the first appearing base card in the base set. And so then once I identified all those, and as we've already discussed, there's 19, then I sort of ranked them based on what I thought the hobby's perception of each brand was. Just as I'm not saying that this is the right way to organize it, or that this is even this certainly is not the way that I personally necessarily rank them. But this is how I sort of fumbled around in the dark, sort of grasping for ideas here to sort of figure out how can I kind of make this into a list that makes it for a more interesting presentation. And then I just sort of said, well, let me kind of rank these brands based on how popular I think they are. And so this was the results of that ranking process. So the 19th ranked, or the last ranked, I had is Panini Instant, which has so Purdy has a first appearing card in the Panini Instant base set, which is card 134. That card has as its rarest parallel a black 1/1. Number 18, I put Honors, and it has just one parallel, a black 1/1, which I now own. 17, I put Chronicles, and his first appearing base set card in Chronicles was card number 141, and its rarest parallel is a platinum 1/1. What was interesting about Chronicles is that, and I really like this about Chronicles, it's the first base set card of Purdy in Chronicles, and we know the Chronicles is this hodgepodge of retired brands that many of them can cram together and all appear in the base set. But the first appearing base set one is just carries the brand of Chronicles. It's not some other brand. It's just it truly is his first Chronicles, not his first Chronicles subcategory Phoenix or something. Like, no, it's just Chronicles. It visually displays as Chronicles. It has the aesthetic of the Chronicles base set card. And like I said, its rarest parallel is the platinum 1/1, and I would love to add that card. And not so much the Panini Instant. Then next we have the 2022 Panini Black. Card number 200 is Purdy's first appearing, and it has a single platinum 1/1 parallel. Would love to pick up that card. Number 15, I put Rookies and Stars, which then here we have card number 145 with the rarest parallel being the platinum 1/1. I already have that. Number 14, we have Clearly Donruss, which card number 99 is Purdy's first base set card. Its rarest parallels are the Hollow Platinum 1/1 and the Black Spider 1/1. And I have an image of the Hollow Platinum. I definitely add those for the right price. Number 13, I put Elite, card number 185, and the rarest parallel is just one. It's the Black 1/1, and I did have an image of that. Don't really love that Purdy is like in this sort of sleeveless practice gear, but for the right price, I'd add that card. It has a cool cracked ice finish to it. Number 12, I put Donruss, and its rarest parallel is the press-proof black die-cut 1/1. I have Publius echoing in my head because for some reason I want to pronounce Donruss as Donruss, and I just can't quite nail the cadence on Donruss. But Donruss, press-proof black 1/1, would be very happy to add that. Number 11, I put Obsidian, card number 158. It has just one 1/1, which is the blue Finite. I bet that's a pretty looking card. Number 10, Spectra, card number 198. It has a gold 1/1, and that's it. Definitely interested in adding that card. Number 9, Certified. There are two 1/1s, the black and the mirror black. Would love to add both. Number 8, Contenders Optic, has just a single 1/1, which is the gold vinyl. Goes without saying. Would love to add that one. Number 7, the 7th brand, with 6 to go. Number 7 is Flawless, and its rarest parallels, as we've discussed previously, are the Platinum and the Diamond Black one of ones. And I have the Diamond Black, and I tried to get the Platinum, but it just got a little too expensive for me. Number 6, Mosaic. So Mosaic has 3 one of ones: Black, Nebula, and No Huddle. And I'd be interested in all 3. And I'd be very interested in the Black and the Nebula. And then once you have those 2, you should bring all 3 together. Number 5 is Select, club level, card number 213. It has 3 one of ones: a black one of one, a black disco one of one, and a die cut black one of one. And I've got the black one of one, as we've seen. Number 4, among the brands, I put Optic, which has 2 one of ones. It's got gold vinyl and the black, and I've got a picture of both. Beautiful looking card. Purdy's Optic Gold Vinyl in particular is certainly one of his very, very best cards, in my opinion. Then third, you get to Contenders. It has just a single one of one parallel, the Super Bowl tickets, card number 263. It's a sticker autograph, for what that's worth. I believe that one of one may have surfaced recently. It's not one of huge interest to me, particularly because it's going to be very expensive. Number 2, I have Prism, and for the rarest parallels, there are 3. It's card number 353 in Prism. There's the Black Finite, the Black Shimmer, and the Black Stars. And as we've discussed, I've got the Black Stars. And then the top ranked brand I've got here is National Treasures, with the rarest parallels there being 6. There are 6 one of one parallels to Purdy's card number 200 in the NT base set. The Platinum NFL Shield, the red brand logo, the Stars and Stripes shield, the Stars and Stripes red brand logo, and the Stars and Stripes red laundry tag. So there are the 35 to choose from, effectively, are each of the one of one parallels to the first appearing base card from those 19 different brands. And it's a fun chase. It's a fun chase. So I guess how many of those 19 do I have? I've got the Rookies and Stars, one of the Flawless, one of the Selects, that's 3. The Prism Black Stars, that's 4. The Honors, that's 5. So I have 5 of the 35, which is pretty neat. And I really like the 5 that I have, obviously, or else why would I have gotten them? But yeah, I really like those 5. So anyway, there's a little insight into sort of my approach to Purdy collecting. And then I teased at the beginning of the show for the final thoughts before I conclude this episode on list making. And so we just went through sort of this little list that I made that had the brands ranked by roughly how I think the hobby sees them, right or wrong. I'm sure there were mistakes made in the compiling that list, and I'm sure that there's a more rigorous way of doing it than just me kind of going by my gut, like, well, I guess Prism and then NT, there's probably better ways to do it than that. But also sometimes, we like to go by the gut. We just like to have some fun, and just things need to be put in a list. But do things need to be put in a list? It's interesting. There's almost an approach that's more neutral or objective when it comes to ranking things. And then there's an approach that is heavily subjective and more skewed towards personal bias when ranking. There certainly isn't a way to perfectly objective rank. And you might say, well, yeah, there is. You sort of sketched one. You can identify all the one of ones, and then that's certainly objective. There's no disputing that those are all one of ones. But there is disputing that. You can dispute that, because what is a one of one? Prism has 3 one of ones as an example. So how are they a one of one? There's 3. They would be more accurately described as one of 3s. or I shouldn't say that's necessarily more accurate, but they could be accurately described as being instead of each being isolated as a totally separate thing from the other. Instead, they sort of have they belong to the same category. There are 3 one of ones of Brock Purdy to the Prism base set. So each one of those one of ones is really a one of 3. And then if you expand that logic, Purdy has 146 solo fully licensed one of ones. So in another sense, each one of one is also could be understood as a one of 146. Or if you sort of change the conceptual framing to say, well, instead of just the available offering being fully licensed solo cards, how about we narrow it again, keep those criteria, but then let's narrow it a little bit further, and let's call it fully licensed solo cards that are first appearing base set cards. Now we've narrowed it to 35. So a one of one is in a certain sense a one of 35. And so but let's start undoing it now. So like I've been finding ways to narrow it. Let's undo it. Let's unravel it. So let's take away the first appearing base set. That brings us back out to 146. And then let's take away the fact that must be a solo card that takes us out to 163. And then what if we take away the fully licensed requirement? Now, Purdy, like anybody who searched Purdy cards on eBay surely knows, and I know very little about this except that I've seen them creep into my searches and I try to get them out. Purdy was a part of this this product called Super Glow. And I'm pretty sure he's got a number of one of ones in that Super Glow product. So if we take away the fully licensed and we let in the Super Glow, or I don't know if he appeared in Leaf, maybe he did, or any collegiate card appearances. I don't know. Maybe So and how were there any associated with 2022? And so you can start zooming out and you can start saying, well now actually there's 200 or 250 one of ones. But then let's zoom out further. Like, why are we focused only on 2022? How many one of ones does he have across his career? Let's not just, and then now maybe it's 1,000. And then why are we excluding printing plates? Let's bring printing plates in. Maybe now it's 1,200 or something. And then why does it have to be? Why does it have to be 2.5 by 3.5 or roughly approximating that size? Like what if I have a newspaper clipping of him and he signed it and he wrote one of one on it for me? Well, can that count? Yeah. Or any in-person autograph. Let's say I take his mosaic base card and I have him autograph it and inscribe it like that. That in a sense is a one of one. So anyway, the idea here is that there's always a conceptual framework in play. Or since I've been down the Wittgenstein rabbit hole and the rabbit hole of the philosophy of language, there's always a system of grammar existing that imposes its rules and it's operating, whether or not we realize it. And we can start to, anytime things start getting clustered conceptually, anytime we start defining things, we start imposing rules. We start imposing in the philosophy of language, we start imposing a grammar, or in the philosophy of collecting sports cards, let's call it, we start imposing boundaries or restrictions, or narrowing is things that have the effect of narrowing the focus. But in so doing, it sort of also lays bare that there's always a conceptual framework at play as soon as we start identifying or classifying anything. Even doing something as basic as classifying something as a sports card, it is imposing a system of rules. It is imposing a definition on something that already then, to bring this back to the initial point, imposes a subjective bias. As soon as we classify or define something, we have, in a certain sense, imposed a subjective bias. We have brought something of our opinion to bear on it. And so then it just becomes a matter of how much defining or classifying are we doing, and how specific and careful do we want to look at it, and how far away from the mainstream are we willing to stray? Because all these concepts that are accepted unflinchingly, that we sort of tolerate unquestioning without questioning them. Like the concept of the rookie card, like whether we're talking about a rookie year card or a rookie card, or however thoughtful somebody's being about that categorization, all the different methods of categorizing or defining have in common that it refers to the season that's associated with that player's first pro season. Although that's not even true, because there are people who think of rookie cards as anything that is during that first pro season or before that first pro season even. But the family resemblance that all different notions of a rookie card have is that it's this earlier card. It's an earlier card. And usually it's like a card from a product that's associated with that player's first pro season. But that itself is a definition. That itself is a concept. That is a category that is being imposed on this thing, and that category exists in our minds. It exists in the abstract. It is not a property of the thing itself. It's a property of the way that we've defined it. Even as you can see, I have a rookie card on the screen. Even as it takes the rookie card badge, that is a facet of its surface that the manufacturer has deemed it a rookie card, or has placed the rookie card badge on it. And so now it does become a fact of its surface that a rookie card badge appears on it. But whether or not, as a collector or as a community, we decide that it's a rookie card, that is a concept that is happening in the abstract. Even the decision of whether or not to accept a rookie card badge is granting rookie card status. That is a concept. That is an agreement. That is something that exists in the theoretical world. And so let me draw this to a close. The idea here is that every identification step that we take to identify a card, to classify a card, to categorize a card, this is all immediately we're introducing some level of subjective of subjectivity. We are immediately introducing our bias on some level. And then as we from the most unquestioned mainstream concepts, like the concept of the rookie card, or the concept of the base set, or the concept of the insert set, these are all concepts. These are all things, categories, ideas that are the product of the human mind, and that are definitions that we've imposed on them, that we've created. Now we accept and we agree to all of them, but they're still definitions. They're still categories. The thing that can make a definition powerful and persuasive is if it is able to be uniformly applied without bending or sacrificing its principles, and that it also helps explain and organize and structure the hobby as a collecting experience. That those are the most powerful concepts, and the rookie card is one such concept. And so the difference between an insert and a base set card, or the concept of the parallel card, all these are concepts that are unquestioned for the most part, that don't get any extra scrutiny in day-to-day hobby experience, and they do a lot to structure the way that people think about collecting and the way that they collect. And but these concepts are all related to the creation of rarity. And then if you like the concept of a rookie card creates rarity, because it boxes out all those cards that don't have the properties of being a rookie card. And so as we categorize and define, we narrow and we narrow. And so that's where, when it comes to list making, when it comes to ranking, in order to make a list, it's whether you're defining, categorizing, or just going off of which looks the nicest to you, there's always a subjective point of view being imposed at every step. Even when you decide what cards make the list, like when you look at my Purdy checklist, and we review what cards even made this list of 1,005, And then you can flip over to my notes, and my notes say these are rookie issues only for the 2022 season, and that they're fully licensed only, and that there are no printing plates. So immediately I've already imposed multiple rules to start creating the field of material from which I'll ultimately rank things. But those are all choices that I've made to narrow the field to just those. And even if you wanted to resist this, you want to say, well, I don't want to do anything subjective, so let's back all the way up. Just give me the list of every sports card ever made, and I won't impose any rules, and I'll just rank them based on which one looks the nicest to me. And then, this will be a really purely aesthetically driven exercise. Well, you've still imposed a subjective rule, because what is a sports card? You still, even the idea of a sports card exists in the abstract. So look, let me wrap up that little diatribe, and that's going to be an ongoing discussion that continues to resurface throughout podcasting and discussing, and it's not getting resolved today or anytime soon, and it's certainly planting the seeds for discussion, for pushback, for replies, and it's not meant to be discouraging in any way. In fact, I'm hoping I'm illuminating the fact that I'm a person who very much loves to impose order on my collecting practices through the use of rules and boundaries, particularly ones that are very comfortably able to be enforced uniformly, so that I'm not making up ad hoc rules, but instead I'm having a system of rules that produces an algorithm that I can just apply to any collecting situation and get a result. And I don't try to change the result if I don't like it in a particular situation, but I respect the system of rules. That I understand that there's a level of subjectivity to this, even if it has the feel of being objective. That there's certainly still subjectivity that's going on, but it admits of degrees. So like, I think an aesthetic ranking preference that's just about as subjective as it can get. I like the way this one looks, I don't like the way that one looks. There's more objectivity involved when we have a sort of algorithm or a system that helps us narrow things in a way that isn't due to our eye appeal, but instead is due to some other narrowing mechanism, such as the true rookie card notion as a way of narrowing. And then once we've narrowed to the true rookie cards, then I narrow further to only the one of one parallels to those. And then once I've got that list of 35, now I start bringing in my personal sentiment towards brands or towards aesthetic appeal, eye appeal. All that stuff really starts to come into play at that point. And I just want to put a footnote here that when I say eye appeal, I don't mean the concept of assessing the condition of a card, which is a very popular concept, especially among vintage and pre-war collectors who rely very heavily on evaluating the eye appeal of a card. I don't mean that. When I say eye appeal, I mean the aesthetic appeal of the particular design elements of the card as contrasted against the design elements of other different cards. All right. I've said a lot in this episode. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time for, I guess that will be HOJ-Cast 14.